Morning, everybody. So my name is Ciara Mitchell, and I run the cybersecurity cluster here in Scotland. I'm also a director of UKC3, so I'll explain both of what those roles are throughout my presentation. Please go to my first slide. Perfect, thank you. So I can just about read that, so to remind myself what I'm actually speaking about. So today I'm going to just talk about the cybersecurity cluster. For those who've not been involved, we'll find out a little bit more about it today, but also really wanted to speak about why I feel it's important that the fintech community and the cyber community are working hand in hand and working close together as well, and then also highlighting some opportunities that might be of interest to any startups, any scale-ups in the room as well. So I'll be speaking for about 20 or so minutes, 25 minutes. Perfect. So starting of all, well, what is a cluster? It's starting to become a little bit more of a common word in Scotland, so hopefully some of you might know what we mean by tech clusters, but just in case, clusters are really all about driving growth in that particular sector. So in one line, my role is to support the growth of the cybersecurity sector in Scotland. And really, the reason why we have a cluster for cybersecurity is because we know it's a growing market. It's going to continue to grow for quite some time, and we want to make sure that Scotland and Scottish-based companies are reaping the benefit, from the economic opportunity that comes with a growing market. So we kind of work in three pillars. We always have pillars. First is ecosystem development, so very much getting to know the community, gathering intel on who is working in cybersecurity in Scotland, and making sure then we're understanding their challenges and needs and making connections, introductions, building partnerships, just so that we're helping to bring that community together, so that we're harnessing the power that you come from a collective working together rather than everybody working as individual organisations. Second pillar is cyber skills, so really trying to make sure we're encouraging people into cybersecurity throughout their careers, and that it's seen as being an inclusive and accessible career choice, no matter what your background is, your age, diversity, and also working with schools to try and encourage people into STEM careers from a very early age as well. And then the last pillar is innovation and growth, so I'll be focusing a little bit more on that today, but that's, the cluster encompasses anyone who wants to get involved who's working in cybersecurity, but we do particularly focus on the cyber startups, SMEs and scale-ups, just to give a little bit more help and support where we can. And so a lot of what we do around our events and our newsletters is making sure we're signposting and highlighting programs and opportunities that will be particularly appeal to those companies as well. So next slide, please. So in terms of who is in the cluster, in Scotland, we talk about the cyber cluster and cyber community having a very engaged and supportive community here, and a lot of that is underpinned by the close working relationship across Scottish Government and all the bodies that works with Scottish Government, academia, enterprise, and what I've deemed as innovation here. So on the Scottish Government side, now I know not everybody would agree that they're easy to work with, but from my perspective, where I stand on the working with the Scottish Government Cyber Resilience Unit, they have a very strong drive and ambitions to make sure Scotland is a safer, secure place to live and to work, and they set out their ambitions and strategy in the strategic framework, which they launched last year, and so I work closely with them. I will touch on that a little bit later when I discuss the Cyber Scotland partnership that they set up just over a year ago. Academia I will come back to as well, but obviously couldn't possibly speak about academia without highlighting the great work that Edmund Napier have been single-handedly doing to support and drive that growth and innovation from this university. And then on the enterprise side, we are seeing more and more large global multinationals set up in Scotland, which is great. Often they'll start up with a small team, but then they start to grow the teams, they start to build their stocks here. So we're really seeing the size of the workforce grow, year on year, and not just through cyber companies. Obviously that will include other companies who are employing large cyber specialist teams here. Some of the financial services, for example, have quite large teams, but they don't tend to like us to highlight that too much, so we don't try to list any details of who's employing how many or where they're based, so we'll try and keep that, get that off the sides. And then lastly, on the innovation side, we're seeing some great stories. Of course, it's great to have Dr. Jamie Graves back here today. Zone Fox is obviously one of the success stories with the takeover from Fortinet. We've now seen Siacom, who up to recently were called Sign Forensic, so you might have heard that name maybe, but they're really starting to scale up and being a really success story. I think their product has been used by every police force around the UK, and they also have something like 30 customers in the US now working with New York Police Department and many more. So, really starting to grow and scale their organisation. And of course, great to see the next generation with True Deploy now on its way to spinning out and scaling up as well, which is great. That's that side. I know some people love numbers. So in terms of numbers, in terms of the size of the community, we have 330 cyber companies who have a presence in Scotland. And that's all shapes and sizes within that. Around about 150 of them are Scottish headquartered organisations, and in the likes of that you have Adama, who now employ over 400 people. So it's great to see a Scottish company building to that size. Quorum Cyber obviously really growing in numbers as well. And then in the last 7 to 8 years, there might be some 8-year-old companies in there, but around about 70 were set up in the last 7 to 8 years out of that 150. And again, out of the 150, we believe about 60 are building, tech products and services, so building their own IP. Some of them will be pure tech companies, like True Deploy and others who are there to build tech products and services. Others will have offered consultancy or managed services first, and then decide to pivot into building a product because they identified a gap for their particular customers. So it's great to see so many companies who are actually building innovative products and services to help the challenges that we know are still here and ever evolving in the cybersecurity sector. Great, thank you. I have no idea if you can read this properly, but the reason for this slide really is to kind of just talk about, considering we have a mix of fintechs and cybersecurity companies in the room, kind of really wanted to say that, cybersecurity really is, what we mean by is digital security. There's some people, when you say the word cybersecurity, they think of a very niche area, often, a guy in a hoodie in a room, either hacking or trying to stop a hacker. We take a much more wider and inclusive view of it. You'll see listed in there is online safety tech. There's lots of organisations in Scotland now really focusing on online safety, which is where you're trying to keep individuals safe, whether it's working like Siacom, it's digital forensic to help the police, or whether it's stopping teenagers from uploading nude pictures. There's lots of happening in the online safety area, which we still would consider to be a hugely part of cybersecurity, because it's all about protecting individuals and their online footprint, really. So, and because everything is digital, we're all moving to digital today, this is becoming more and more relevant. So I just wanted to call that out, because for some of the fintechs, you might actually, without realizing it, your products and services that you're building might actually play into a cybersecurity remit as well. I think sometimes companies almost pigeonhole themselves a bit too early, and then be very focused on the fintech and the opportunities that come through that. But you might find there's some opportunities that your company could avail of, because what it delivers and the outcomes that it delivers actually does have a cybersecurity element as well. So just bearing that in mind through some of the programs that I speak of, that you may find that you are able to apply for them because your products do serve some of the needs. They have benefits to be keeping people safe and secure in the digital environment we all live in nowadays. Great, thank you. Just wanted to quickly call out some of our academic accolades. I won't go through all the ones on the right-hand side. I'm sure you can read them off. But again, just considering we are at Napier, calling out a few of Edinburgh Napier's. So they have a recognised Cyber Centre of Excellence for Cybersecurity Research. They also have the only fully certified NCSC degree course in the UK. There are a number of certified, there's masters certified throughout the UK, including in Scotland, but the only fully certified degree course is at Edinburgh Napier. And of course, as mentioned earlier, they have been doing amazing work with the number of spin-outs that they've had over the last few years as well. So they've certainly made my job a lot easier just from that. The number of companies that have been set up and spun out of Edinburgh Napier since I've taken on my role. That was it from academia, thank you. I just wanted to quickly mention, next few slides are just very quickly mentioning a couple of initiatives that are happening in Scotland that I just thought would be worth flagging to people. The Scottish Government set up a Cyber Scotland partnership, just over a year ago. I think it was announced in Cyber Scotland Week February of last year. And if you're not aware of it, it might be worth certainly signing up to the newsletter. The idea really is, it became noticed when COVID kicked in that there was a lot of information being sent out to organisations in terms of how to stay secure and how to protect your business, and it almost felt there was too much information. So the idea here now is this is kind of a one-stop shop in terms of finding out information that's relevant to Scotland. It's very much goes hand in hand and complements what the NCSC are doing, and they have a very strong partnership with them, but it's just trying to make things a bit more relevant to the local community. So certainly worth signing up to the newsletter. Even things like the exercise in a box that SBRC, Scottish Business Resilience Centre run, it's free companies to sign up to, and it's a really great kind of tabletop exercise just to make sure your C-suite, your leaders, your board are thinking about cybersecurity and how they protect their business, because really it all comes down to that brand management, that risk management. So making sure that everybody is understanding that link between cybersecurity and that brand management and the risk to your organisation as well. So certainly I would definitely recommend signing up to the newsletter. There's lots of free workshops and programs that are highlighted through that newsletter. And tied to that is Cyber Scotland Week. Scotland is, through the cluster, does a lot of the legwork and help with coordinating Cyber Scotland Week, but is all part of the Cyber Scotland Partnership Programme of activities. And it's a week-long serious events that really try and get companies and individuals to think about cybersecurity, where they might just keep putting it off, on the long fingers, a week to try and get them to think, right, this is the week where you can get lots of access to events, in person, online, to training, to workshops, and really trying to get people to take a bit of time out of the diaries to think about the security for their own personal sake and also for the businesses as well. And it's at all levels. It's from novices right up to practitioners as well. So there's lots of opportunity for people to run an event or just participate in events. So again, I would recommend that you kind of sign up to the newsletters and get involved with Cyber Scotland Week. It'll be on again next in February, so we will be starting the foundations of getting that organised in the next month or two. So thankfully not quite yet. We seem to just about recover for one Cyber Scotland Week, and then we have to start planning again, but not quite so far. Thanks, Nick. I know you can't read these, I certainly can't, but just wanted to flash up again a couple of other things that are just happening. It does seem like there's a lot happening in cybersecurity in Scotland at the moment. Hopefully it's okay to mention another university. So just a quick mention of ABERTECH, who will be opening up their cyber quarter in about 2 weeks' time, I think it is, 15th of June. And that'll be a great, that's part of the Tay City deal, that'll be a great addition to the cyber community in Scotland, where there's, I think it's like a 4-floor building where we'll have from startups to large enterprise, and including some public sector organisations kind of having a base there. So hopefully, as well as having some great events in Napier, hopefully we can also have some events up there as well. And tied to that, the NHS Scotland was one of the first tenants of the building. They're opening a centre of excellence up there. And I think the idea is eventually that will become a centre of excellence for wider than just NHS Scotland. It will be for other public sector organisations as well. So again, it's a great opportunity to get students, public sector and startups and the larger organisations all together at the cyber quarter. And then what else have I got there? Oh yeah, the Scottish Government also announced that they're putting plans to open SC3, Scotland's Cyber Centre Coordination. And I'm not sure exactly when it's opening. I think it will be later this year, but the idea really was, many of you might have heard about the CIPA attack, and they kind of realised, they managed to obviously deal with the CIPA attack, but if there'd been 2 attacks of a similar nature very close together, and if one of them had been impacting kind of critical national services, then they would have struggled to really have had the manpower to deal with it. So the idea of SC3 is that they can kind of coordinate getting industry involved to help support some national incidents if and when they do occur. And again, this is working very, very close in hand with NCSC. NCSC will have someone who's dedicated to SC3. So it's not trying to in any way duplicate, but it's trying to make sure there's feet on the ground in Scotland should a national incident occur that has to be dealt with quickly. Perfect, thank you. I'm almost getting there. There's a few more slides, really. So as part of the work we do within the cyber cluster, we work a lot with the other clusters and the other kind of ecosystem organisations throughout Scotland. Census is one. Fintech Scotland would work closely with Nicola Michael from Fintech Scotland. And we've set up a group called, we've given it the grand title of Scottish Cluster Ecosystem Alliance. It's really a quarterly get-together of, the kind of leads from all these clusters to make sure that we're sharing information and supporting each other, collaboration where we can, even simple things like if we're running an event, we're not all running it on the same day, we're coming together and doing joint events where it makes sense to do so. And for some of the newer clusters, we're helping to share best practice and just tips and hints about how to get a cluster off the ground and how to go about it. So again, what it also means is that if you are working with any cluster, whether it's through myself or through Fintech Scotland, if you want access to any of the other clusters, then that's a great way that your cluster lead can help. So I've done many introductions, more recently to the gaming sector in particular. There seems to be a real push towards gamification within the cybersecurity sector, and it's nice to see those kind of partnerships then being built, and some Scottish SMEs, for example, working closely with Scottish cyber SMEs working closely with Scottish gaming SMEs, and really getting that collaboration and partnership going. So it's another way the clusters can help if you do want to help to access any of the other tech sectors throughout Scotland. And then go next slide. And then that brings me on to UK C3, which is another C3, which stands for Cyber Cluster Collaboration. This was an organisation that was set up just about a year ago, and it came on the back of the fact that there were a number of cyber clusters throughout the UK, and we felt that we needed to bring them together a lot, so we're working a lot closely together. Secondly, support any newer ones so that they're again learning from the experience of the ones that have been around for a while. But it also meant we had that national voice. So if we're working with DCMS, the UK government, or we're working with organisations like the UK Cybersecurity Council, we could do that on a national level rather than each cluster having to kind of navigate and try and speak to these organisations individually. And really, again, where the clusters come into their own is if there's information coming from these national organisations, coming from DCMS, they'll come out to the cluster leads and we'll send that out to the cluster. So it's a way of making sure that information is getting out to right throughout the UK and isn't kind of sitting in London or Cheltenham, where we know is particularly hot on cyber security. It's all tying into the levelling up agenda. They want to make sure everybody who is interested, all the SMEs, for example, that could apply to a particular program are hearing about it, and therefore if they choose not to, that's fine, but it wasn't through lack of getting the information out there. So that's where clusters can really come into their own, that we have that local knowledge and we know the local community in which we operate. So perfect. And that was just quickly to show you where the main clusters are. There are some others that are going through a kind of what we're calling a recognition process at the moment, but they're the main clusters around the UK. So again, if there's a particular part of the UK that you want to learn how to access, you want to know a bit more about the community, what events they run. It could even be that there's an area where they're strong on defence, for example, or they're strong on manufacturing, and therefore you want to know more about how you connect into that community. Or there could be a company that's headquartered there that, again, you want to try and see, can you get an introduction to them? Going through that cluster is a really good way to start. So you can come to me, say, could you introduce me to the Midlands Cyber Cluster? I can make the introduction, and therefore you can start to have that conversation. So without having to, actually move down there and open an office straight away, you can do a lot of getting to know the community and building your connections to suss out, is that a place that you feel you should expand your business into. And likewise, I'll get introductions made to me from the other cluster managers who know there's a company who's thinking of maybe trying to either access Scotland as a market or expand into Scotland and actually set up a team here as well. Which it's that building a team here is what we're particularly interested in. I'm not here to help other companies sell into Scotland unless they're actually going to set up a team here, because it's all about building the economy. If you even have one full-time member of staff here, you're adding to the economy. If you're just trying to sell into it, then don't normally tend to be quite so open and supportive to those conversations. So, and actually, sorry, just in the bottom I mentioned Global Epic. Scotland Cyber is a member of Global Epic. That's similar. You see that as in an international gathering of cyber clusters. So there's clusters in Canada, different of the Asia-Pac countries across Europe. So if there's a country that you're thinking, actually it'd be quite nice to see if we could explore how to penetrate, how to start to build up a presence there, speaking to the cluster manager from that country is often a great place to start. I mean, along with working with Scotland Development International, DIT, I would go down that route as well. They offer great services, so they're definitely worth having conversations with. But again, sometimes it's nice just to speak to the local cluster manager. So get in touch, and I don't know if there's clusters all over the world, but certainly a lot of the key countries that you're more likely to be considering will have clusters, and we can make those introductions. Great. I'm not going to touch on these. I just wanted to flag them up because part of my talk was to cover opportunities for kind of startups and scale-ups, and I'm assuming everybody in the room who is working for a startup, scale-up knows about these. I think 4 out of 5 of them are Scottish, so it means if you're based in Scotland, you have access to these competitions and these programs as well as the UK-wide ones. So sometimes it can be a real benefit. I know sometimes location for Scotland is not always ideal, but you can have that real benefit of having the Scottish programs as well as the UK and international programs as well. EIT Digital isn't Scottish, but I call them out because they have an office in Edinburgh and they do focus on fintech and cyber, and I know they're running a couple of programs currently, so worth getting in touch with them if you're not already engaged. But just wanted to flash that up, but hopefully people are aware of all those programs. If not, it's worth doing a bit of Googling. Cyber Runway, so this is one people might not be quite so aware of. The cyber companies among you might have come across the Bootcamp 101 before, or Hut Zero, or Tech Nation Cyber. They've all now been replaced by Cyber Runway. So it's one program with 3 different kind of flavors or tracks to it. They ran for the first time last year, but they've now, which was I think a pilot, and they now secured a 3-year funding. So we will see this running for the next couple of years. Launch is open now. So launch is about if you have an idea. It's kind of aimed at people who are probably still in employment or maybe still in academia that want something intense and short that you can just take a week off work. So it's an in-person, week-long boot camp really, where if you have an idea, you can kind of speak to a number of different experts who can help you mature it, scope it out, maybe just do a competitor assessment of someone already doing this, what's different about your idea, just to kind of give you that boost so that then you can decide, right, what are my next steps? Do I, try and seek investment, build your team, etc. But this is really for people who are very early and just have an idea that they want to explore and don't really know where to get started. The program's great in terms of building really key relationships as well. It'll be based down in London, I suspect, at the Plexel office, but you'll be building really good UK-wide relationships as well. So certainly worth considering if you're in that stage about, I might have an idea, but I'm not sure. It is definitely worth that week to invest in that time to explore it. Grow and Scale will be open soon. Grow is more for organisations who are already up and running, but maybe, could still be looking for that first customer, still trying to practice the pitch, still going through the teething problems, many startup space. And then Scale is more, you've already got customers, you've already proven some success, but you're wanting to kind of really get to the next level, maybe seek some slightly larger investment and looking for like a large enterprise customer. So these are all run more or less, they run predominantly online so that it's accessible to everybody, but then it will be topped and tailed or complemented by some in-person events. I think they'll certainly do an in-person graduation event, which I think, is optional, but it certainly wouldn't let location put you off this, that most of it is online. And again, through Cyber Runway, you can build some really good connections and relationships as well. So now you'll have to excuse the graphics in this. This is when the marketing team weren't available, so that was my own doing. But Cyber Runway Scotland, so we ran that in February of this year in partnership with Cyber Runway. So they ran 4 regional events and they picked Scotland as a place to run it. And I'm delighted to say, because they felt it went quite well and we had a lot of interest in it, we're going to be running that again towards the end of the year, sometime in November. So that'll be a 2-day event. You don't have to be on the Cyber Runway online program to join that one, but it's worth trying to be on both, because then you're getting the best of both worlds. And then on the right, I'm just mentioning a showcase. We don't have a proper brand or anything for it yet, but through UKC3, so we secured some funding to run a cyber showcase, which will be very much, I don't know if people are familiar with EIE, but let's say a mini EIE where it will be application based and then adjudication, and then people will be on a program to really try and perfect your pitch with some one-to-one coaching and some pitching training along the way, and then that will culminate in a pitching demo day where we hope to get some key investors in the room, and not just obviously really want to get the Scottish investor community in the room, but we'd like to get some of the ones who specialise in cybersecurity to attend as well. So we'll be working again hand in hand with Plexel, who runs Runway, to work on their investor relationships as well, to try and get plenty in the room. So we'll have news around both of these coming out in the next probably 6 weeks. We're very early stage designing both of them, and that will also run in November. So we might somehow merge them to be a 2 to 3 day kind of event in the same week. So we'll let you know as soon as we can. We do send a monthly cyber cluster newsletter, so if anybody isn't on that and would like to be kept informed about all of these and about the events we run, then just connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'm more than happy to add you to the newsletter. Or if you've got a card, just follow up with me today and I'll add you to the newsletter. I think I'm almost done. What have we got? Yes, I think it's the second but last slide, so I'm almost there. This is just while we're chatting about national programmes. This is another one that people thought would be good for people to be aware of. Now, it's very much about NCC, National Cyber Security Organisation, very much looking at companies that are trying to make the UK a safe and secure place. So it is more tied into traditional cybersecurity. But having said that, the financial services is such a key sector. If your product is trying to, help the security within the financial service sector, they may be something that they're very interested as well. So certainly worth considering and not ruling it out. They're all, free and open to companies to apply for, certainly, and to attend. And I believe that is me. Is that next? Yes, that's me. So I have no idea how long I've been speaking for, but it feels like it's enough. My details are there, or I'm fairly easy to find on LinkedIn. I don't think there's too many Ciara Mitchells in Scotland, certainly. So you can, just connect with me, and I'm more than happy to talk about anything I've mentioned today, or to add you to the newsletters as well. So, and that's me. Thank you. Are we doing Q&A now, or?
Sorry?
Are we doing Q&A now, or?
Yeah,
okay.
We can go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, any questions before I take a seat?